just thinking now with COVID, everyone was celebrating the frontline workers, and it all of a sudden dawned on us that we didn't look to celebrities, we didn't look to the multimillionaires or whatever. We looked to the people who were there in the front line. We saw how even in my house, everything fell apart when my kids didn't go to school. Where there's actually a teacher who's invested in my kids. That's a frontline worker to me because I heard once they say you've got doctors, engineers, and all these professions, lawyers, but it's teachers who got them there.
In today's episode, I interviewed Joe Black, the well-known singer, public speaker, and everyday hero. We intended this interview to be about bullying and how teachers can assist bullies and the victims of bullies. But the interview turned out to be so much more. The teachers that attended the interview live had a great response. I even had some teachers reaching out to me with one saying that she just fell in love with the profession once again. I can't wait for you to watch or listen to this interview with Joe Black. Tell me what you think about it on the social media platform of your choice. Unfortunately, the sound for today's episode isn't great. With load shedding, I had to move my entire rig to a friend's house where I had to go and prepare to record the interview with Joe Black. And there was a bit of an echo, maybe a bit more of an echo, an extreme echo if you wish. So the audio quality isn't great, but the message still remains amazing. So if you can excuse us for the bad quality of the audio and listen to the message, I would really appreciate that. Being a teacher is tough, especially now. That's why we need to motivate, inspire, and support each other. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the Super Teachers Unite show and learn from the expert guests we have every week. Hi, my name is Frans van Oordea and I am a super teacher, and this is Super Teachers Unite, the show that's all about motivating, inspiring and supporting teachers. And I'm extremely privileged today to introduce to you a teacher of a different kind, Joe Black. Joe Black, welcome to the Super Teachers Unite show.
Thank you very much.
So if you're in the Afrikaans music community, Joe needs absolutely no introduction, but for the teachers that don't know Joe, Joe is a musician, he is a public speaker and a everyday hero, and we'll get into that shortly. But Joe, it's great having you here, and I'm looking forward to discussing all things around bullying and what teachers can do to assist with the scourge of bullying in schools. But before we do that, a major big thank you. Our episode today is brought to you by Go Teach, and I'm extremely excited because this is the first time ever that we launch Go Teach. Go Teach is the platform for substitute teachers. If you're a school looking for a substitute teacher, you just go on to Go Teach and you can go and find a substitute teacher in your area. So if you are an unemployed teacher, a retired teacher, or a student teacher, we would love for you to join us on the Go Teach platform. You can just head on over to goteach.co.za. Go register as a substitute teacher, because our mission is we're going to try and find you a job within education whilst we serve the schools who need at short notice need to find somebody to stand in. Then of course also, if you would like to be part of the live studio audience for Super Teachers Unite, you have to send me a WhatsApp. So for everybody watching this on the other platforms or later on when we put it out on our social media or on podcasts, you would need to send me your name to +27 63 681 6410. I'm going to repeat that. Send me your name to +27 63 681 6410, and you can be invited to be part of our live audience when we interview great guests like Joe Black. Joe, this is actually a very strange interaction, finding an Afrikaans singer like you, a major name, chatting to teachers. Where did this love for bullying or for admonishing bullying come from?
I think it comes from the fact that we need to change the world. We need to make a change, make the world a better place. And a couple of years ago, I realized something in my life, and that was that I am worth more than where I come from, what I look like, what I have. It was all about heart and integrity. And once I realized that's the message I never got taught at school. That it was all about my morals, about my values, and how I treat people. Because looking back on my life, I'm 38. I don't look a day older than 24.
Well,
But
that's true. I'm
exactly.
36, and Joe, I look about twice your age. It must be the teacher in me and the gray hairs that I got from there. But you don't. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna use that. So yeah, I agree with you. You don't look a day over 24, except for the beard, maybe.
So the whole idea was, I feel they missed me at school, in impacting my life in such a way where I would have been more of a moral citizen than a destructive one. I think I could have made such a big difference while I was still in school than what I'm trying to do now after school. And that's where we started. Be that guy. And that is exactly who it is. Be the person who picks up those who have fallen down, protects those who are tired, stands up for those who are scared, carry those who are weak. And then half of the population took me on about that. So I started Be That Girl as well. So now we just call it BTG, Everyday Heroes.
And I like that it fits so well with what my mission and vision is for teachers in being super teachers, being those heroes in the classroom. So I absolutely love the idea that you went for Be That Guy, BTG, Be That Girl, everyday heroes, because that's the thing. We always think that superheroes are these people with these immense superpowers, these incredible people that's going to make a difference. But when we really think about it, the difference is being made on micro levels, on small interactions between people every single day.
True. I mean, just thinking now with COVID, everyone was celebrating the frontline work, and it all of a sudden dawned on us that we didn't look to celebrities, we didn't look to the multimillionaires or whatever. We looked to the people who were there in the front line. We saw how even in my house, everything fell apart when my kids didn't go to school. Where there's actually a teacher who's invested in my kids. That's a frontline worker to me, because I heard once they say you've got doctors, engineers, and all these professions, lawyers, but it's teachers who got them there. So in actual fact, you have a more important role than any other industries out there.
Oh, you better know that I'm going to clip this, and this is going to go wide and viral on social media, that we need more celebrities tell look of a teacher is important. That it's so true that you say that teaching is the mother of all professions, and we're not saying that to gloat. It's just every doctor, the president himself, every single person has gone through the hands of teachers. And I've got this thing that I say that you get three types of teachers. You get the teacher that you won't remember ever because they were just there. You can't even think of their name. You get those teachers that you remember for all the bad reasons because of the way in which they made you feel. And then you have that super teacher, that teacher that really made an impact in your life and that made a positive difference. And that really sticks with you with the rest of your life.
Now, I'm one of those fortunate people who have had those teachers who basically left such an imprint that a couple of years ago, when all my success started, I started sending all of them Facebook messages and saying, listen, you won't maybe recognize me or know me because I go by a different name and I've got a beard, which I didn't have at 10 and 5. But I just want to thank you for the role that you played in making me the man I am today. Because if you think about this, and in my instance, I rode my bicycle to school. So I have to leave home at 7. Mm-hmm. And then I'd spend time at school. And after school, we'd have rugby or athletics or cricket up to about 4 or 5 o'clock. Then I'd drive back home. Then my parents would come home after school. It would be dinner time. Then everything has to be quiet while they watch the news. And then after news, I have to go bath and go to bed. So in actual fact, I saw my parents for an hour for the day, where I spent at least 12 hours with my teacher. Mm-hmm. So you've got a more than just the educational role that you play. It's an emotional role because so many kids, see you more than they see their own parents.
That's extremely valuable. The point being that kids spend a lot of time at school, and the way in which they start formulating their worldview about society really depends on what they get exposed to while they are at school. So, Joe, maybe take us back to the time when you were at school. What type of kid were you?
I was the one that you would go home and tell your better half you are ready to quit. So I had the privilege again a couple of years ago to go speak at a seminar with a bunch of principals and teachers. And the one principal who got up before me, he was telling the story about he had to make a change in his mind about what his profession is. He says there was this one kid in his class who he knew had all the potential, but this kid was wrecking everything, disrupting class, and it made him so angry that he grabbed him, pulled him outside, closed the door, and he picked him up by his throat, lifted his feet straight off the ground, and he pulled his fist back, and he says at that moment he realized he can end this all now, punch this kid and take his exit out of teaching. Or maybe he realized that this is probably the only way this kid gets punished every time, so it's not going to make a difference. So he just put him down and he gave him a hug. And he says, you know what, I believe more in you than you believe in yourself. And everyone was in tears and da-da-da. So then it was my turn, and I mean, how do you top that? So I went up and I said, I remember where the change in my life came. I was sitting in history class, and all of a sudden the teacher pulled me out of class, closed the door, and he picked me up on my throat. And he pulled his fist back, and that was actually the same teacher that changed my life, and he says that's the day I changed his life.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah,
he spoke about you without you knowing that. So you didn't know each other at the conference, and
we
you
knew
was.
each other, but I didn't know that was where his story was going.
Oh, wow. That's like serendipitous, and you changed his life. He changed your life in the same moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've got goosebumps because that's such an amazing story. And I mean, you rightfully said that he could have easily just perpetuated the social stereotypes, the bad, the negative things that kids experience every day. And you just said, like, you know what, it wouldn't have made a difference if he were to hit you. It's just another day in your life. But the fact that he changed the narrative on you. He changed the way he treated you differently than you would typically be treated, and you remember that to this day.
To this day, and now me and him, we're best friends. So when I receive, if I turn my camera, you'll see all the awards against the wall. When I got my first one, I went to the school and I gave it to him.
Wow. That's an amazing story, Joe. And that's the one thing, teachers in general, I promise you, all the teachers that taught you and remember you, they tell their friends at every single braai, you know what, ek het vir Joe geteach. Like at every single braai, wherever they go, even if they didn't teach you directly, if they were just in the vicinity of your school, they would say, I taught at the school where Joe Black went. And that's, for a teacher, that's probably one of the amazing things that can happen, is seeing how children prosper after school and knowing that you had some form of influence. But I've said it in other interviews as well, and I firmly believe this. Just like we've got an influence on these kids that become celebrities, that become presidents and real influential people, just like that, we've got an influence because we don't know that in our classroom sits the next murderer, sits the next rapists, sit the next gender-based violence perpetrators. These people also are in our classrooms, and we've got the power to influence them as well, because who knows what would have happened if this teacher actually, after he grabbed you by the scruff of your neck, maybe hit you, what impact that could have made in your life.
Yeah, true. I would have probably just said, I'm done, I'm finishing school, I'm never going back. But again, just because of one person that believed in me, and I think that's where the accountability comes in. Because later he was my history teacher, and now he's the principal of the house. And the way every time I go and visit the school and teach to the kids, I think the other kids can see the role that he played in my life. And I finished matric 20 years ago, and still I have this relationship with a teacher.
No, that's amazing. And just think about the mindset shift that he made and the impact that he's going to make generation of generation, because how he influenced you, and now you're on these major stages, and you are not only from the music perspective but also from the BTG perspective, where you speak to schools, what the cascading effect and the exponential effect is of you speaking to other kids. How has that journey been for you?
Well, again, I was on both sides of this, and I see the value of what words bring to the table. We said with BTG, my brother does the camps where he takes these bullies on camp, and I go to schools and I do these motivational talks towards, instilling good values and morals and respect and stuff like that. But then we also realize that it's all about attention. Now, one teacher can't give 800 kids attention every day. It's impossible. So it's up to everyone around us to start getting that mindset that everyone is worth something. Like you say, they could be the next president or the next murderer or whatever. But we are social creatures. We need the attention. We need the tap on the back every now and then. So we said, okay, your star student, the top 10 rugby players, netball first team, all those, they get attention. Okay, they're quite fine. The bullies or the disruptive ones, the kids who are flunking, they get attention because we put in extra effort there. But it's the great kids in the middle, the kid that actually keeps his head down, does his work, they fall through the cracks because we think they're okay. They're coping, they're not a problem. And we focus on these two outer parts. So I think just we as teachers and people who are involved in schools should acknowledge the fact that not everyone is as brave as they seem. Not everyone is doing as well as it seems. And more than educating is in instilling those values, showing me what love looks like, what patience looks like, That's what I've realized every time. We spoke about this the other day when I told my daughters, if you knew how many hidings I used to get at school. and for no reason. It came to a point where if I walk into class, the teacher would call me forward and say, come Joe. And I'm like, what did I do? And he says, no, it's not for what you did, it's what you're going to do. I know you're going to do something.
Let's keep something in credit for you, yeah.
Yeah, and it got so bad that the one day I couldn't get my undies off because the blood had dried against my skin. And I made my mother write a letter saying they're not allowed to hit me anymore.
Wow.
And everywhere I walked, I pulled that letter, I carried it in my top pocket. If someone calls me, I said, look at this, you're not allowed to hit me. And about 2 weeks went past, and the one teacher called me up and he says, come, and I said, listen, I got this. And he took the letter and he shredded it. And he says, your mom phoned us and said, we can start hitting again. But I mean, if I look at it, it was all attention seeking. And that's what every kid just wants. If they don't get attention at home, they want it at school. And
if you reciprocate their behavior with negative attention remains attention, but there's no rehabilitation that's happening. There's no change whatsoever. So I'm glad you mentioned this, but what do you think is the effect, and where do you stand on the whole corporal punishment debate? Let me make it difficult for you.
You see, if you look at it from a biblical standpoint, hiding never killed anyone, and I'm talking about hiding with respect, okay? Not abuse, that type of stuff. And it didn't make me a worse person. And in actual fact, some of the values that I still have had to be, instilled through hiding.
Mm-hmm.
But then it comes back to respect. And I think anyone who loses a temper or whatever, that person looks out of control, and that is why there's no respect. I look at the teachers who, when I walked in and I used to be out of hand, where she said, Joe, please, can you sit down? Never looked down on me or never spoke down to me or whatever. I have the most respect for them today because they never embarrassed me. They never try to show me that they're in charge or whatever. And that's the difficult thing today, because I think now more than ever, this is one of the most difficult times to be a teacher. Okay. Think about this. When you decided to become a teacher, we normally what was a standard 9 when we did the orientation to see what jobs we're going to do.
Yeah.
Did you think I want a job that is 7 to 1, and it should have 4 great holidays, great salary with benefits? Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a half-day job with a full pay, full holiday. And that's why you decided to become a teacher.
Sounds like a great deal, yeah.
Yeah. Or did you walk in the first day realizing it's not 7 to 1 because you have the extramural activities. You have to coach because the schools don't have funds to get outside coaches. So you get home at 4, then you have to go look after your own family, get your own children's bath, then you have to mark tests or whatever, deal with your own anxieties and your own issues at home. And then you found out the pay wasn't even that great. And when you thought you had a holiday, you have to do all these seminars or set up tests, and it's, I don't think it's what anyone think it would have been. Okay. And now, even more in this time, I saw a thing now where it says, your job is a teacher, and that's what you thought you were going to do. This is so much more than just teaching. Mm. You're investing in lives, in young kids' lives who you have to determine if they're going to be the success. Now, all of a sudden, you've got this responsibility of public health. You didn't even do medical, but now you have to scan for and sanitize every kid and make sure everyone is fine. And you have the parents' anxiety. Because all of a sudden now I can just walk in there and say, why don't you teach my children about God? Why are you picking on my son? Why are you... Parents can be a handful on their own. Okay, you've got your own personal anxiety, your own personal issues. And then lastly, I think the fact that you guys are teaching blindly, because most of the time you don't have insight. You don't know what's going on, but everyone expects you to be in charge. Now that takes a special type of person to keep composure in that, sit in front of 30 kids in class, put your own emotional status aside, your marital problems, your financial problems, because your job now is to invest in these kids. Mm-hmm. And I think once we get to a point where we realize this was never about money, there was never about anything else than you wanting to invest in the lives of young people so that we can have a better South Africa one day.
Absolutely, and I think you touch on a very important point here, that it's not about the money, because anybody who got into teaching for the money, like somebody told you the biggest lie of your life, that it's more about purpose, and that fulfilling your purpose. And everything you just mentioned, it's tough being a teacher, and we can easily fall in that thing, oh, woe is me, I'm a teacher, we've got all of these bad things happening. But you know how I know that teachers are amazing, is that despite all of this, they get everything done, they get it done with a smile, and they still impact kids' lives positively. We're still successful regardless of all of these negativities, all of these challenges. You still find those teachers who wake up with a smile and can't wait to get back to school because of that feedback they get from the kids. So Joe, before we go on, I just want to tell our live audience, please head down over into the polls, because at the end of today's episode, Joe and I will be designing a lesson together. He just mentioned how difficult it is to be a teacher, and we're going to test him a little bit and see if the two of us can come up with a lesson idea at the end. So you'll see in the polls, we've put up a few subjects. Now, I'm not going to give it away, but Joe told me beforehand, what if he were a teacher, he would, what subjects would he have wanted to teach? So they're hidden in there. So you wanted to teach poser. Break time is the best subject to teach ever, unless you have to do terreindienst. If you have to do duty on the field, it's not always great. But go and vote in the poll so that we can see which subjects the two of us are going to combine, and then also which phases. So if it's going to be foundation phase or intermediate phase, senior phase or FET, the two of us, along with our audience, they're going to have to help us out on this one. We are going to design a lesson together. But Joe, so you mentioned that you do the motivational talks at schools. Maybe just where did the need to do this come from? Why specifically speak to kids, and what is it that you speak about during the motivational talks?
So like I said, the whole idea was we had a bunch of motivational speakers while I was at school. And it felt like none of them really changed my life. And it wasn't because I wasn't open to receive. It's just they weren't talking about the relevant topics that I was facing at that time. And my brother and I think we were blessed with a unique way of talking and relating to kids. So when we go on that stage, immediately the kids, hang on our lips. And the message we bring is basically take away everything. Okay, where you come from, what people think about you, and be honest with who you are. And get back to these core gifts, I call them, not values, they're gifts. And that is respect. Now, I call respect a gift because I don't give you respect based on who you are. I give you respect based on who I am. And a gift is something you give someone. They can't buy it from you, they can't borrow it, they can't, ask you for it. Otherwise, it's not a gift.
Yeah.
Same with loyalty. I give you loyalty. I give you my sincerity. I give you integrity. I give you honesty. These are gifts that we share with the world. So what I try and do is get all these kids to realize what their gifts are. And that is what we should hand out today, because a lot of people are going through a bunch of things, and especially now. I don't know what's going on in your life. You don't know what's going on in my life. But the fact that if I could treat you with respect, not that you deserve it, but because this is a thing that I give people, hopefully that can make you feel better about yourself. And it works as a pay-it-forward system, because now we also talk to teachers. So if a school books us, my brother will speak to the kids, I'll speak to the teachers, or I'll speak to the kids, he talks to the teachers. And the one day I walked into a school, and their room, the boardroom, or what do you call it?
Staff room, yeah. Yeah, staff room.
I ripped the personeelskamer boardkie. I ripped it off. And I said, because this has become a place where we come in to vent. We'll have our tea and that, but we talk about, that kid is driving me up the wall. And what we're doing actually is we're preparing other teachers that kid is a handful. So I don't even teach that kid, but based on what you say, I don't like that kid. So we broke the name off and we said, this is the Speak Life room. This is the inspiration room. So when I'm down as a teacher and I walk in there, I expect you to tell me, hey man, it's just a bad day. It's not a bad career.
Yeah.
It's, to get the motivation back. And when there is a kid, this is where we discuss, listen, what can we do to approach him different? Because he probably wants to be expelled. Because kids think being expelled, that is 5 days off school. And it's not that. So I think to get that mindset of teachers should support one another and remind each other why we took the career we did. And then on the other side, I'll try and fix the kids.
But it's so true that you say that reframing the traditional sense of teaching, we really need to do that, because a staff room can be such a toxic place. For a long time in my career, I didn't go into the staff room. I would much rather spend my time on the field speaking to the kids, because you need to build that relationship. It's not just, as you said, it's not just about delivering content and trying to fill their heads with knowledge. It's more about assisting them in developing into a holistic person, somebody that really cares, that's got loyalty, that's got respect, all of these gifts that you talk about. So I really like that. The other thing that you do at BTG is you've got the Anonymous Heroes app. That's almost like a whistle-blowing app. Tell us about that, because I think it's genius.
So we call it the Heroes Anonymous, where we said, kids don't normally talk. And these days also, I don't want to go talk to a teacher because I'm scared of being victimized. When I walk in your office, as soon as I come out, everyone wants to know, what did you go say? What was this about? Why did the teacher call you in and stuff like that? So we created an anonymous app where I can report anything from fighting, bullying, teacher-pupil conflict. There's a parent portal. If someone's not well, I'm not allowed to diagnose depression, but we call it feeling sad. And these are all these topics that anonymously you can go and give your complaint. Now, we had an instance where a girl made a comment and she said, listen, my friend cuts herself and she said she doesn't want to live anymore, so she's not coming back to school on Monday. Through her anonymous tip, we could have intervened and said, listen, a Euro nominated you, saying that they are so worried about you and that there's actually people who care about you. One of the biggest things also, and this is not for just for pupils, it's for teachers as well, because we have the teacher-pupil conflict. So if there's a teacher who feels intimidated through a kid, he or she can take the phone and make a complaint, which gets seen by at least 5 other people who have to take action. And there's a function where you can add a video, add a description, who is the kid, what grade is the kid. But same, I had an instance now where a teacher was victimizing a kid, and no one obviously believed the kid. But a bunch of kids anonymously put in this thing with video footage of the teacher actually picking on one kid. So it's a vice versa. It's not a policing system, but it just keeps us all accountable. And then we also put the parent portal, because see, most of the time the teachers don't even think they did anything wrong. So the next morning, the mother with a stiff, the lip that shakes, she walks in and she demands action be taken against the teacher, and the teacher doesn't even know what's happened. So to make it a fair, equal thing, the parents, if I feel my child is not being treated right, I can lodge a complaint. 5 people receive the message and they can start investigating, say, okay, it was a misunderstanding. They can contact me back before I even go to school and go ruin another teacher's day for no reason, because I'm an overprotective parent. So the whole idea is we try and cover, there's drugs and violence, everything can be reported. We had a top school here in Pretoria where a fight broke out with about 30 kids just fighting. And no one would tell, no one wants to split, no one wants to say who's in trouble. But there were about 100 kids watching. So out of the 100, about 5 kids anonymously said, sir, this is what happened. And through all of their verification, we could have found out who was the perpetrator, why was the fight started. And no one is, discriminated against. No one knows who was the one who blew the whistle.
Yeah, because that's the major issue with things like this. From a young age, you're told not to snitch. You shouldn't be a tattletale, because that's got some social implication for you, and you rightfully said so. Exactly, and end up in ditches. So you don't. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be that guy. You want to be that guy. So the anonymous whistleblowing app like this is absolutely genius. You made reference to 5 people on the other side of the app. Who typically is it? Is that people in BTG, or is that teachers or parents at the school?
From the school side. See, and how this app is written, all the info to your school is for your eyes only. It doesn't leak out to other schools, because we want to keep your school off social media. We want to keep you out of the headlines, because every school has their fight, every school has their bullying and stuff like this. So this app was designed so that you can do it internally. So we normally say, if you have a youth worker, a disciplinary position at your school, maybe someone at the governing body, what happens as soon as an incident is reported, within 2 seconds, 5 people receive it. Okay? And they have to meet weekly to say, listen, okay, I'm in charge of grade 8, grade 9, or whatever. These are the incidents that I've gotten. What would you suggest? How do we proceed? Because I've also gone through a thing where I went to a teacher and said, listen, my daughter is being bullied, but physically. She got through with a cheese spread bread and that. And this is all because she's Joe Black's daughter. And the teacher said, okay, she'll look into it, and nothing happened. And when I went back to the school and said, listen, what happened? They said, no, I want attention because I want special treatment because I'm famous. And that made me, I took my daughter out of the school because that was not what I wanted to. I just wanted someone to look out for her. But one person can wipe it under the rug. But 5 people are accountable to each other to say, listen, did you phone Joe? Did you find out if everything's resolved? Because we did find out his daughter is being bullied, and we called the parents, and this is how we're going to sort it out. I think the accountability, it's become such hard work because, like I said, you have to teach, you have to coach, you have to sort your own mess and that, and now you have to take responsibility over kids who are emotionally not, well. And not most, I think we've all come to a point where I don't get paid for that. And that's the mentality that in certain jobs, I can understand it, but when we're in a position where we have purpose, it was never about the money. It was, what are you bringing to the table to change the world? Because your success will be seen in the next 10, 20 years when that kid comes back to your school and tell you, just because of you, that's why I never gave up.
No, that's great stuff. So basically, it's the school-based support team, because every school should have a school-based support team that that deals with issues like this. They're on the other side of the app. So if I were still in school teaching full time, I would have loved an app like this, just for the sheer fact that it, number one, like, gives information, and that makes all the sense to me. It protects the people who want to share the information. But secondly, it's such an administrative tool, actually, because if I understand the way in which the app works, is it would be able to log a ticket and make sure that you address this it's part of the agenda of your next SPST meeting, and make sure that you keep track of it. Because and we know that there are instances where bullying and fights and stuff in school lead to legislative issues where you actually can end up in court record of what the school has done and how the school has kept their hands clean and how the school has supported. That's an added benefit to schools, I would believe.
It is, and I mean the way it is written is, again, like I said, all the information gets collected. So me on this side, I don't get any of the reports. I get the stats. So I can draw your school stats and say, listen, this month we had 14 bullying, 5 fights, 2 suicide attempts and that. And I can phone the school and say, listen, I think we have to do an intervention and can talk about whatever relevant topic is a problem at your school at the moment. And that is where, from Be That Guy or BTG side, we bring in the expert that has a knowledge on that field. So I have passion, and I have passion for the youth. I have passion for education and all that. but I might not have all the answers when it comes to depression or, violence and drugs and stuff like that. So we get guys in that are affiliated with us to come support the school in this.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world, Joe. Congratulations on this. I think it's an amazing app. Before we continue, the teachers in the live audience, you're more than welcome to ask Joe questions. You'll see at the bottom there is an Ask a Question tab. So I'm going to read a few questions a bit later on. Let's see how our time goes. But if you have any questions, see there's already one from Yolandi, which I'll get into quickly. But Joe, just maybe a last word on this. Once a teacher realizes that a child is being bullied, what should that teacher do?
Well, that's a difficult question because, like I said, at the moment everyone is overwhelmed with their own issues. Just looking at what a 24-hour day entails, it's not just teaching. But to really make a difference, I think that is where teachers should earn the respect, like I said, from the kids, to get them closer. Just when you say, I will look out for this or I will sort this out, keep your word. Because that's the first place where kids lose trust in the system, trust in the teachers, is when they don't realize you have your own problems at home and they expect you to be there for them. I think that is when you're there, be there.
Yeah, that's valuable. Like, be present. And I think what society lacks is really good role models, people that kids can look up to. So if your teachers are virtuous, if they don't have these gifts that you're talking about, and we don't exhibit these gifts in the everyday way in which we go about our lessons, our kids learn more about the things that we do and the way in which we treat them than what they actually learn from the content that we try and teach. So if we don't have virtuous teachers in the classroom, there's really, I think that would be the first port of call, is like set the example as a teacher. And then, as you mentioned, once you said that I'm going to do something about it, actually do something about it.
See, and this is where we want to give schools the support. That if you don't know what to do, give us a call. I see someone just posted our website in there. Oh, that's my sister.
Yeah, well, a big shout out to Irma. The two of us had a good chat beforehand. Between me and Irma, we had the discussions on how the interview would go about. So Irma, thank you for sharing the link there. For the people not on the Crowdcast platform, if you want to know more, it's www.btgeverydayeros.co.za. But we'll make sure to share out the link when we share this episode on all social media platforms.
Yeah, we want to be a service to the schools. And in terms of that, your emotional and, the youth motivation, inspiration, that is what we are there for. And we try and give you the tools. But like I said, not just for kids. Everyone thinks kids are the only ones getting bullied. The teachers are getting bullied by parents and by kids and stuff. So we're there for everyone.
I like that, and the support for the teachers is absolutely needed. We've never seen a time like now. Mental health of teachers is extremely important. You mentioned earlier that like the frontline workers are essential services as teachers. If that frontline collapses, if our teachers burn out, it's going to be hell to pay for education in this country.
True.
So Joe, a few questions from my side on more of a personal level. I ask this to all of my guests. So, Joe, what would you reckon is your superpower?
I would like to say kindness.
I was thinking you were going to go with like the ability to grow an amazing beard is an absolute great superpower, because I remember you shaved your beard a few months ago.
Yeah, this is just laziness.
No, that's amazing. But kindness, and I think That's the amazing thing. What I'm seeing in society is how more and more prominent males specifically are using words like kindness and empathy, where that's not usually what we expect from celebrities. Men in general, you get the you get the superficial type of things that people would say, like money and drugs and rock and roll and those things. And I love the fact that we see words like kindness coming from our celebrities. So I absolutely agree that if you can show kindness, that is for sure a superpower.
Kindness and compassion. Yeah.
Excellent. So I typically ask this question, but you already alluded to this. Like, I want to know, like, a teacher that really made an impact in your life. Who was the super teacher in your life? So you already mentioned one of them. Is there another story of a teacher that really made an impact in your life?
True. There's too many. And like I said, I messaged all of them. Unfortunately, two of them have passed away already. But I remember Franz Painter. He was my math teacher in Standard 1, and he's now the deputy principal of the high school I went to. There's Mr. Derek Dowd, who was my grade 7 teacher. I've never had more hiding from anyone than him. Franz was just there's so many teachers, and afterwards that I've put up with him again, and I had the honor of saying, dude, just thank you for the role model you were to me, in all the different aspects of our lives.
So I think that's a challenge for everybody watching this episode. Regardless of who you are and what you've done in your life, reach out to your teachers and just thank them. I can promise you that is more reward than teachers in general would get. There's this saying that a teacher plants a tree under whose shade they will never sit. If you can just get that appreciation from the kids and knowing what's happening in their lives later on, that's a major thing for teachers. So Yolandi said, as a teacher, it's important to allow students to voice their own opinions, but these days it's as if opinions are bound to offend someone in the class. Any thoughts on how to navigate this in the classroom for like grade 8 and grade 9 specifically struggle with allowing different opinions?
Yeah, that is a difficult one now, especially with the fact that so many things we've got so sensitive not to offend anyone. To a point where we've taken out religion out of schools. We've taken certain topics and certain words that are these taboo words that's not allowed to be voiced. But first thing is we should realize everyone is unique. So we preach it, but we don't believe it. So the idea was that I was never supposed to not like you because of what your opinion is. We should actually respect the fact that you have your own opinion. I don't have to tell you you're wrong, because that's trying to put me above you. I think in a situation like that, the best is listening to understand and not listening to reply.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gone so PC on this. We want to be politically correct in every single aspect of life that it just becomes bleached out. There's zero meaning to anything anymore, and people don't form their own opinions, when that is a very important skill for kids to learn. We need to be able to reason critically. That's what we call a 21st century skill. It's just a human skill. But if we become so PC and you don't want to mention anything with the fear of offending someone else, how are we ever going to develop critical thinking?
Sure.
Right, so we are moving on to the final part. Joe, the two of us are going to develop a quick lesson. Let's see what our teachers have voted for. Now, while we do this, our teachers, you're welcome to ask more questions, but let's see. So the two subjects, Joe, we are lucky in this sense. The two subjects that the teachers chose for us is we have to combine life orientation and economic and management science. So LO and EMS. And Okay, so we've got a challenge here. We've got a tied vote for intermediate phase and for FET. So let's see if one of our teachers can pull in a last minute vote, or maybe Joe, you wanna veto this one, deciding on which phase we're going to design our lesson for. Is it going to be for intermediate phase or for FET?
I don't even know the difference between the two.
So the intermediate phase is primary school. It's your grade 4 to 6. You're looking at the age range of 10 to 12. Yeah. And then FET is your high school. That's grade 10 to 12. So that's ages of 16 to 12. Okay, let's go. Let's go with the high school. The two of us have to combine life orientation and EMS. So the teachers that are with us currently, please give us topics. Let's think of topics that fall within EMS as well as in life orientation. So while we wait for our teachers to assist with that, Hester has got a question. Joe, what age group would be ideal for this app? She teaches grade 7, but have to deal with a lot of bullying situations from grade 4 to grade 7 as a senior phase HOD. So is there an age limit for the app?
Well, I don't condone cell phones at school. And especially with the younger kids. I mean, my daughter is 12 years or 11 years old, no cell phone. So we said here from 12, grade 5, 6, 7, where the parents trust the kids enough to have a phone with them. That is fine. We also say, listen, if your kid is too young for a cell phone, they can do it on their parents' phone. So this is actually open for all age groups. We've just found that in high school, the kids are more open to go talk about their problems, unless they trust the fact that it's truly anonymous. With younger kids, normally they would voice their anger or their hurt. So I would say this is open to anyone. The schools should just contact us, and we'll set a package for the schools together, where we introduce the app, we explain the app to the kids, and if we do it, say grade 4 to grade 7 in the primary school, that is our target area. Even when I go speak to a primary school, they split grade R to grade 3, because I tend to lose those small kids when I speak to the older kids. And we do grade 4 to grade 7. That's our target market.
Wonderful. Well, I like the fact that the kids can use the parent's cell phone with the app on there, because it also encourages that discussion between kids and their parents, an open dialogue between them, because it shouldn't be. I think one of the greatest challenges is kids feeling isolated in a situation like this and not knowing that they've got the support.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Hester is talking about cyberbullying, so that definitely fits within the LO curriculum. And then Yolandi is mentioning two things: factors of production, and I don't even have a clue what the factors of production is, Yolandi, so you'll have to give that to us. And then entrepreneurship. I like that one a lot more. As an entrepreneur, I might be able to add some value there. But Joe, let's say we needed to design a lesson and incorporate something about cyberbullying and entrepreneurship. What's the first things that you think kids need to know about these two concepts?
Well, first of all, can I just mention, on the Heroes Anonymous app, there's also a cyberbullying button. Because, man, the sad story is, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've lost one kid, 12-year-old daughter, who committed suicide because of cyberbullying. So that is it's a topic that's close to my heart. Cyberbullying is something that's taking over the schools. Anyway, let's go back to our lesson.
But that's very valuable that you said there, because we think about bullying in the sense of face-to-face bullying, but our kids are more online. So we need to include in our lessons, and life orientation is a great vehicle for this, but other subjects can do this very, very easily as well, is talking about the time spent online and how we interact with each other online is extremely important.
That's true. One thing we realize now is kids temporarily block their parents on WhatsApp. And then on their WhatsApp stories, they share the fact that they cut themselves, or they share all these, heartbreaking pictures. But the parents won't ever see it. And this is where it's up to the Heroes Anonymous to start reaching out and say, listen, I'm worried about this. And this should be taught in school because we've moved into an era. We didn't have cell phones when we were at school. So we didn't have the pressure of that. Mm-hmm. But now these days, kids want to be in and they want to be recognized by other kids. So they've got Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and Twitter, and all this. And it's all for attention. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. So I think teaching kids lessons about, first of all, the use of social media. And what it actually does, getting screen dependent and getting dependent on the likes that you get from people and stuff like that. That should become a relevant topic in schools.
And one of the major reasons why kids are thinking of creating their own social media profiles is because they see more prominent influencers on social media making money out of it and making a living from likes and making a living from sponsor deals and things like this. When we only see one side of the story, we don't see what's happening on the back end. And I know a lot of the influencers that have fallen into a rut because they have to post bikini pics and butt pics and standing next to a flashy car, because without that they don't get all the likes that's needed to sustain their influencer ad deals.
So it is a downhill spiral. I mean, I don't see myself as an influencer, but I think I have about 250,000 followers. And the one thing I said I'll never do is I don't promote. I'm not a salesman, whatever. I show you what I want you to see, and that is my shows and what I do, the schools I go around. My two daughters, the one's 8 and the one's 11, they want to become YouTubers. So Daddy had to put them down and say, listen, I've got 20 million views on YouTube. You're not going to get rich on YouTube views and stuff like that. And getting toys for free and all this stuff. It's an illusion that's been created because people think being famous, you'll be happy. And what I've learned in the last 4 years is being famous was never the reward I got for my success. It's the price I pay for my success.
Well, that's profound, and I don't think a lot of people are open about that. Is that people who aren't famous are looking up to famous people, wanting to be famous. But I think Jim Carrey made this quote, and he said he wishes that everybody could be billionaires, just so that they understand that doesn't change your life.
Exactly. So I think, well, kids trying the entrepreneurship for, going social, because we've moved to a digital age where everything, I mean, here we are, we're not even in a meeting or in the same room, but here we are talking as if we are, and we've got viewers sitting on the other side. It's taken away the personal connection. Mm-hmm. I'll sit in this room, and if I want something to drink, I'll send my wife a message and say, bring me something. We've lost that interaction, that physical touch, and where social media has connected us with the whole world, it has disconnected us with the people around us.
Yeah, and that's a valuable lesson that we can incorporate. Maybe this could be a debate, or it can be a reflective exercise. Some way, maybe just even of having our kids starting to think and critically reflect on their own social media use and the way in which they interact with each other, and what the reasons are for it. Joe, I think that's a very interesting lesson, and I hope that there are some of our LO and entrepreneurship teachers out there that are going to include this. And then please, if you do this lesson, share it with us on social media, or send me a mail, or you've got the WhatsApp number. I'll repeat it a bit later on. Share with us the great stories that's happening in education, because we need a lot more positivity in education. Joe, thank you for spending time with me. Any last words you'd like to throw in before we sign off?
I think if there's any teachers watching, I would just like to first of all thank you. It doesn't feel like you being acknowledged in that, and probably you'll never be acknowledged. But know that the seed you put in the ground today, that's going to be your reward one day. Like you said earlier, planting a tree knowing you'll never sit in the shade. It's thanks to people like you who what do you call it, unselfishness towards other people's kids, towards my kids. Thank you for that, and know that there are still people who think that you mean the world to us.
Joe, thank you for that. And just once again, the teachers out there, if you ever would like to be part of the conversation and you want to be part of these live sessions, make sure to send me your name on WhatsApp to the number +27 63 681 6410. And then a major thank you to Go Teach, bringing you this episode. Make sure that you go register as a substitute teacher. If you're an unemployed teacher, if you are a retired teacher or a student teacher, be sure to go check out goteach.co.za. And then schools, if you are looking for a substitute teacher, make sure that you head on over there. This is only phase 1, but there's great things coming on development with Go Teach. Joe, I thank you so much for the time that you've spent with us. Everybody else, thank you. We're looking forward to hearing more schools using your app and getting involved with BTG. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, my name is Francois Nordia, and with me, I've got Joe Black. Thank you. Being a teacher is tough, especially now. That's why we need to motivate, inspire, and support each other. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the Super Teachers Unite show and learn from the expert guests we have every week.